Hello, Mark Sabatella here. So in this video, I just want to talk a little bit about how I went about learning the feel of jazz. I usually talk about theory in this series, and the thing is that theory is really good at capturing the things that it's really good at capturing, and it's really not good at capturing a lot of other things that are still important and so kind of need to be lumped in here. And so last week I was talking about my former band director, Wayne Miller, from when I was in high school, who recently passed away. And he was a huge influence on me, as just the whole reason I'm a musician. There's a handful of people that I can say were really instrumental in that, and he was one of them. And in particular, he was the one that introduced me to jazz. And the thing is, from a theoretical perspective, it's not what I learned from him about specifics of chord voicings and so forth. And, he wasn't a pianist. I learned that. I learned about chords and stuff from my piano teachers, Cindy Kessler, Elizabeth Scheidel, Austin now. And what I learned from Wayne Miller, though, was the feel of jazz, but I can still be pretty specific about what I mean by that. So I've got a link to a video. I'm not going to play it here, so we don't have to worry about copyright or anything like that. But there's a piece that we played when we were in high school by Sammy Nestico called Flight to Nassau. It was written for the Count Basie Band, and we covered that piece along with a whole lot of other Count Basie pieces and pieces that were, more modern stylistically and older stylistically and a lot of different styles. And so I got a lot of different types of sounds into my head. But the really specific thing that I remember, and I'm not meaning these notes in particular, but we would rehearse, and very often in rehearsal we'd want to listen to, say, the trumpet section just playing a background figure that appears behind the saxophone solo or whatever. And so we'd be playing the piece, and then we'd stop, and then Mr. Miller would be like, all right, trumpets, letter L, 4 after L, let's hear that rhythm. And it goes something like this. And they would be maybe not quite getting it. They'd be a little off, or their articulation would be ba and not ba-da, ba-da, with that short second note. And maybe the swing wouldn't be right. Instead of one, ba-bum, instead of being like this late swing note, it would be one, ba-da, and it would be like too early, too not swinging. And Wayne was really good at picking up on this, and they would rehearse this over and over again. Now, notice I talked about the trumpet section, and I don't mean to pick on the trumpets, because the same thing would happen with trombones or saxophones. But the point is, it almost never involved the rhythm section, not because we were so good at that stuff, but because we didn't have that stuff written in our parts. So we would just be sitting around with nothing better to do. Me, the bass player, at least during the years when we had a bass player, the drummers, we had multiple drummers, and we would just be listening to this, and you can't help but hear when they would slow it down. He'd be like, let's do that again. 1, ba-da, ba-dum, and we would be kind of listening along, maybe singing along with ourselves. That's how you learn the language. And there's a lot of things about that language that you internalize from hearing one passage repeated over and over again. Because he would do that. He would say, like, hey, let's play that one passage over and over again. 1, ba-da, ba-da, 1, ba-da, ba-da, 1, ba-da, ba-da. He'd like put loops around it and have us practice it. I don't remember if he actually put loops, but he definitely did it over and over again. So, you get that sound into your ear, and you don't know exactly what's going on. Maybe it's only later that you can verbalize what's happening. And I can verbalize some of it. It's a balance between notes on the beat and notes off the beat. 1, ba, 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 dum. Half those notes were on the beat, half of them were off the beat. There's also a balance between long and short. 1, ba-da, ba-dum. In that case, there was 3 longs and 1 short. Another passage might have 3 shorts and 1 long, whatever. There's a balance between on the beat, off the beat, long and short, and the syncopation, right? 1, ba, ba, that accented note off the beat. That's what creates a syncopation. It's not just like in a steady stream of eighth notes, da 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 da, half of them are off the beat, but they're not interesting because they're not syncopated. They're followed by a note on the beat. And again, intellectually, I'm not going to say that this is how I was able to put it into words right away, but through that experience and through that repetition and attention to detail and insistence that we get the articulations right and really capture the sound of that original recording, this is how the sounds of jazz entered my mind. And so there's all sorts of things that I could talk about it, for how the swing feels with the eighth notes would work on that. But if I could just give you those two specific things to hang on to, when you're listening to music like this, be paying attention not to the long, complicated stuff and all that, but pay attention to the short little passages, these little background passages, the behind the soloist, and be thinking about that fact that there's a balance of long and short, a balance of off the beat and on the beat, and syncopated and not syncopated. And it's that balance between those elements that gives this music, its special sound. And listen to that recording again and be listening with that in mind, thinking about the syncopations, the where those happen, and the longs and the shorts and ons and offs and all this, and realize that the way you learn that isn't because I'm sitting here explaining it to you. That helps intellectualize it. The way you learn it is through repetition of listening, and a lot of people might listen to this music and never really pick up on it. It's that combination of listening and thinking about it, and in our case in high school through Wayne Miller, it was thinking about it by doing it, actually playing those passages over and over again, or in my case, listening to everyone else playing all them over and over again, and me just sort of maybe pretending to play along because it was fun, and that's how I learned. So that's what I got for you here. It's this idea that there's certain stylistic elements that you learn really through a certain type of listening and a certain type of thinking about what's going on and a certain type of imitation, a conscious imitation of what you're actually doing and why. And that's how you learn different styles of music.